Are you still trying to close all your loans at the end of the month? Well, let's talk about why you might want to change. I'm Tara Ryan here. Today's tip from Tara is about what we call the interest credit closing. Now, that's a really boring mortgage name, but what it means to you is you don't have to close at the end of the month. And we'll talk in a moment of why that has historically been the case in our industries. But what it means is you can close that loan in the first few days of the following month and have the lender treat it as if they closed on the last day of the prior month. Historically, why have so many loans closed at the end of the month? Well, one has to do with loan officers wanting to get paid. Many mortgage companies pay the loan officers once a month, and therefore they want to cram everything into the prior month so they get paid sooner instead of having to wait a full another 30 days before they can get paid. Number two, FHA. When you do a payoff for a refinance for FHA, that payoff goes through the end of the month and it's not prorated. And so it's in the borrower's best interest to close an FHA refinance very near the end of the month so they're not double paying for interest. So that creates an increase in loans for all of our closing attorneys at the end of the month. And lastly, for our borrowers, they do pay interest for each day left in the month at closing. And so for borrowers who are very tight on cash, the closer they close to the end of the month, the less money they're bringing to closing. They're not really saving any money though, because every borrower pays interest for every day they own the loan. It's just a matter of when you pay it. So if you close, for example, at the end of the month, you might bring very little money to closing. Let's say you close at the end of October, October 30th, you might pay very little interest at closing, but your first mortgage payment will be due November 1st. Okay. If you were closing early November and you paid a lot of interest at closing, okay, because you're paying for the whole month of November, remember then though your first mortgage payment is not till January 1st. Okay, so think of the interest that a buyer pays at closing. It's just their little mini mortgage payment for that partial month in which they close. So it doesn't really cost them any money, but it is a cash flow thing. And so you do find borrowers wanting to close in that end of month time frame. So what can you do? You can talk to the lender and say, hey, what if we push it and close November 2nd, November 3rd, something like that. Here's how it works. We would do the closing date, let's call it November 3rd. And instead of the borrower paying any interest, we pay them for the first 3 days of the month. They actually get a credit for 3 days of interest. So now we're even, right? And so the math or the cost of the interest on this loan works out just as if they had closed on the last day of October. So when would their first mortgage payment be? You got it. It would be December 1st, just like they had closed on the last day of October. But you're sitting there in the attorney's office on November 3rd, no chaos, no delays. It's a beautiful experience. So try to avoid end of month if you can to make it less stressful for you and your buyer and hopefully to lead to more referrals. As always, we are here to help. Give us a call.